AI-driven cars, they're a big part of my production workflow. So I've been waiting on the iRacing AI launch with both a professional and a personal interest. So I have to admit, when I realised the release would be a soft launch with limited content, I was pretty disappointed. But as it turns out, I really shouldn't have been worried. Hello fellow sim racers. To start with, let's address the elephant in the room. I'm not going to weigh in on the discussion about whether iRacing should have AI or not, other than to say, if you don't like it, don't use it. I'm not a big fan of gummy bears, but I don't spend my days smashing out vitriol-fueled comments on confectionery forums like some sort of desiccated husk of a being that can't remember what it felt like to experience joy, or sunlight. Let people have fun the way they want. And for me, as a content creator, AI is a godsend. Furthermore, as someone that flits between all of the major sims on a day-to-day basis, spending time getting up to speed on iRacing can be a chore at times. So I'm looking forward to using the AI as a bit of entertainment while I relearn the ropes. So with that all out of the way, what's the deal with the iRacing AI? Well, they've conducted what they're describing as a soft launch, which in practice means you can only use limited content while racing against the AI for the time being. You're limited to the Porsche 991 Cup car and 7 race circuits: Nürburgring Grand Prix, Barber, Barcelona, Road America, Watkins Glen Short, Donington GP and Lime Rock Park. But don't let that shortlist fool you. There's a lot of interesting stuff to explore and ultimately a lot of fun to be had. There's a mode for single races and a surprisingly powerful championship creation tool. And of course, all of the usual controls for weather, time, track conditions, etc. are present as you would expect. And all of this is controlled through the desktop UI. Now onto the AI themselves. You can assign abilities from 0 to 125% and select a range within that. For example, running a race where the AI have abilities ranging from, say, 95 to 105%. As an aside, I really wish race sims would just have 100% as the top AI ability, or at least describe what the percentage is in reference to, because to this layman at least, it feels very arbitrary, and I'm sure it's not. As for the AI speed, I found that my pace was generally a match for the 115 to 120% range once I was suitably comfortable with the car. And generally speaking, I'm a good 1 to 1.5 seconds short of the aliens once I'm really comfortable in a car and track combination. So my guess is that the super fastest guys probably won't find the AI to be that much of a challenge, but then again, that's pretty much the case in any racing sim. That being said, I think the AI provides a good range of abilities that will cater for 90-something% of the user base, especially with a 991 Cup car, which is one of the toughest cars to get the brakes right. While we're talking about the AI abilities, I have to mention the custom AI roster functionality, which is, without hint of hyperbole, a work of art. You can pull together a field of drivers with almost limitless potential for customization. Basics like the name, skin and helmet design can be assigned to each driver, but the real beauty lies in being able to customize each driver's personality if you so choose. And the system for doing so is impressively flexible, allowing you to tweak aggression, optimism, that's the AI driver's estimation of their own abilities, I kid you not, their smoothness, their age, the pit crew, yeah, you heard that right, the pit crew skill, strategic riskiness, and of course, their overall skill. I would be underselling it by calling this impressive. But if you find yourself asking why you would want that level of detail, well, there are a few reasons that I can think you might want to do so. Off the top of my head, recreating a classic series with different driver dynamics, creating a more varied practice environment, or just customizing a race to behave in a way that would otherwise be impossible in any other sim, for example from a strategic perspective. I appreciate that was quite a lot of stuff to cover, so let's get on to the important bit. How do they drive? And in a word, they drive believably. I mentioned that they're pretty fast if you want them to be, but they also behave differently from driver to driver. Some will be as smooth as butter, while others will have a really heavy right foot, which, with the Porsche in particular, is both entertaining and terrifying to watch in equal measure. The AI also makes mistakes. It runs wide, misses apexes, or just has the occasional good old-fashioned spin. And when they make those mistakes, it feels, without wanting to repeat myself too much, very believable. And that's the key thing here. The immersion factor with the iRacing AI is absolutely top-notch. In fact, it's not so much the driving of the fastest cars that helps in this regard, but the way that the slower cars behave. In other sims, slow driving often means braking unreasonably early, or the top speed is limited in some way that just makes racing against the AI cars feel pretty bad. But in iRacing, it's much more subtle, and to me at least, it feels like the slow cars lose their pace in the mid-corner. In essence, it feels like racing against a driver that doesn't quite have the confidence to push up to the limit, which is something we've all experienced racing online and seen in real-world motorsport. However, it's not all perfect, and I think that's more than reasonable with a soft launch of the product. When it comes to defending, the AI are pretty weak and honestly too much of a pushover. When compared to a sim like ACC, which has evolved to have some really quite impressive defensive driving, though not always perfect, it does leave a lot to be desired. That all being said, I'd much rather race against an AI driver that behaves in a reasonably predictable and human-like way than an erratic one, and the iRacing AI has, for me at least, been almost flawlessly behaved. Another quirk appears to be with the tyre temperatures. The Cup car is well known for being pretty sketchy on cold tyres, but that doesn't seem to impact the AI as much as it did me. And this has meant, at least in my case, lap 1 and 2 of a race are much more defensive than I'd like, as I try to fight off a much faster AI car. Again, this is a small quibble, and maybe fairly unique to the Cup car or indeed my driving. So, to sum up, I'm actually really impressed with the AI implementation in iRacing. At the bare minimum, it works well and the AI doesn't make any glaring immersion-breaking errors, but that's very much damning it with faint praise. The nuances of how the AI drivers actually pilot the vehicles really does make for a more immersive AI experience overall than pretty much any other racing sim I've experienced. Sure, there's still work to do, particularly when it comes to defensive driving, but I'm confident that this is all going to come together. One final note, I was a bit surprised to see the 991 Cup car as the choice for the AI experiment, and if I were a betting man I would have probably put my money on the Skippy or the MX-5. But I'm glad they did choose the Porsche Cup car, as it's not really a car I've spent much time with. And after a few miserable laps while I was trying to work out how the brakes behaved on the thing, I was really having a great time, and I've really grown to enjoy driving that tricky little car. So guys, that just about wraps things up here. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, it would be great if you could hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you can see more content like this in the future. So all that's left to say is goodbye, thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.